Sawasdee krab. Good afternoon, ladies and gentlemen, esteemed guests. Welcome back once again to the Symposiums by Revolution Thailand in collaboration with Siam Paragon Bangkok Watch Week 2025. All right, ladies and gentlemen, our next symposium of today is presented by IWC Schaffhausen in collaboration with Revolution. And on today's panel, the aesthetics of speed and altitude explores how IWC's legendary design language bridges aviation with motorsport, combining pure function with timeless elegance. So, ladies and gentlemen, to begin our discussion, please welcome our moderator once again. A big round of applause to Mr. Wei Koh. And up next, ladies and gentlemen, the person who has shaped the Maison's modern visual identity, the Chief Design Officer of IWC, Mr. Christian Knoop. And lastly, joining him as a respected Thai collector, please give a warm round of applause for Kun Pirapon Pusiri. Good afternoon. Welcome everybody on stage. Please have a seat. Please have a seat. All right. So I think before we head into our topics of discussion today, I think a lot of us here will want to know the story behind IWC. Could you tell us a little bit about IWC Schaffhausen, please?
Yes, absolutely. We are very proud to be here with Bangkok Watch Week. It's an exciting moment for us also to connect with the community here in Thailand. We have a very lively collectors community here, and this is also a chance for us also to talk about the brand and to get known a bit in a wider sense. IWC has a unique history also in the world of watchmaking because we are the only watch brand in Switzerland that is founded by an American. So we were founded in the 19th century with a very bold vision to combine technology and craftsmanship. And this idea of combining these processes, machine process technology with skilled people, with skilled craftsmen in Switzerland remains our formula. This has led our path into instrument watches, professional watches in the 20th century, and it's still actually at the core of who we are today in the world of watchmaking. So we want to be known as the engineers of fine watchmaking and combining really latest technology with skilled craftsmanship we find in Schaffhausen.
Absolutely amazing. And now I'd like to pass it over to Wei. I think you're ready to actually chime in just a moment now, but what are your thoughts behind IWC? I'm sure you're very familiar with it anyways.
Kim, I want to start with a Gen Z related topic because I'm extremely old. No, he keeps asking me about Gen Z. He's like, dude, what do I know about Gen Z? I'm like, I'm old as dirt, you know? But okay, so 2014, there was a watch that was launched that shook up the entire world. What watch was that, Kim?
I'm the wrong person to be asking that question, to be honest, but please do enlighten me.
It was the Apple Watch, right?
Ah, the Apple Watch.
So in 2014, if you went to Geneva to the watch fairs, everyone was freaked out. There was a collective rictus of fear that was sweeping through Geneva because everyone was like, is this going to be the end of mechanical watchmaking? Okay, so let's cut to 11 years later. Is it the end of mechanical watchmaking? Kim, what do you think?
Absolutely not.
What was really interesting was that the generation after embraced mechanical watchmaking even more. You know, and I've always thought that, but maybe you're better off to tell me, that it's because you were constantly surrounded through digitized time that you actually sought refuge in that which is perennial, which is mechanical watchmaking. The reason I bring this up is it's really pertinent to IWC and also what Christian does very ably. So let's talk about two eras of IWC, right? We're going to start with the era of precision watches that your life basically depended on, right? And we can start in, let's say, 1936, where you have the Homburger family. The Homburger family is the descendants of the Rauschenberg family, who were the people that bought the company from Florentine Ariosto Jones and Heinrich Moser. And they were aviators. The two sons were aviators. And so the very first pilot's watch was created in 1936 for the two sons of the owner of IWC, right? But these were, at the time, the actual timepiece you would depend on for your life, right? Then you would go into the 1940s, and we have, of course, the B-Uhr watch, right? This was called an observer's watch. Maybe there was other uses for it, but maybe he will explain to you later what they're doing.
Yes, I'm sure he's ready to explain.
Yes, yes. And then in 1948, we have one of the most important watches that was created of all time, right? And this is the IWC Mark 11, created for who? The RAF, right? The Royal Air Force in United Kingdom. And this was, again, the official watch that was handed to pilots. As you walked up, you got your wings, you can go to your plane, they would give you this watch, right? And this continued until the advent of quartz. And then the whole question was, what is a pilot's watch going to be in the post-quartz crisis? When you no longer need to rely on a mechanical pilot's watch for your life, is there still a relevance for a pilot's watch? And we got our answer in 1992 when IWC brought back the pilot's chronograph, right? Which was the Doppel chronograph, a split-second chronograph. So a complicated version of a watch that didn't need to exist, and yet by virtue of that became even more exciting because it appealed from an emotional perspective, right? And then we can go into the history of pilot watches from there, probably the 3705 and 3706, which the gentleman is wearing, the pilot's chronograph, the Big Pilot, which was launched in 2004 as well. But I think the whole point is that the roots of IWC are real. These timepieces were real timepieces that people depended on for their lives, the ultimate precision instruments. But what Christian does is really interesting. He injects emotion into them. How does he bridge that gap? How does he make it part, is part of the history of pragmatism, but somehow emotionally appealing? That's his talent. That's the ability of a creative director. So Christian, I would ask you, tell us your Marvel origin story, buddy. How did you get started in the watch industry, and how did you become the creative director of IWC?
Yeah, I think it was a lucky coincidence. I'm trained as an industrial designer, and sometimes say for fun, I designed everything except watches and cars before I joined IWC. So I was really into technical products, furniture, domestic appliances, electronics, even aircraft interiors. So I always had a bit of a sweet spot for pilots and aviation. I wanted to become a pilot and astronaut when I was a kid. And in fact, it was also the big pilot watch that got me into IWC, except of this job offer. This was the first watch I noticed and made the connection with the brand. And for me, this big pilot watch really represented everything I liked in design. It was the purity, it was the boldness, it was actually the clarity in the design, a kind of, in modern ways you would say no frills design, and so this opened the world for me in IWC and still became a bit of a mantra and a kind of guiding light also for everything we do in design today. When I look up my Instagram and when I walk around here, and I think it's a phenomenon of our time that there's new watches every day and every week, and most of them are very well designed, I have to say, with all respect for my dear colleague designers. But what makes it the difference between just another beautiful watch and a successful product in the end is exactly this aspect of identity, of character, and a product you can really distinguish from the rest, a product that stands out, a product that you can associate with a brand or a product line or some values. And this has become harder than ever, but at the same time, it's also, I think it's more important than ever, really, to shape a product like this that really has this character and identity. So when we look at our work as designers in Schaffhausen today, is then for sure we have a rich history, and this history sets a very strong foundation, but it's not sufficient to refer to this history and to repeat the history. We also have to come up with something new. So in that sense, every product, every collection we are launching is walking a fine line between the past and the future, respecting the DNA of the brand, but still surprising our customers with something new and something unexpected. And so every new product has to serve and to cater to both sides of that, and it's still our ambition and our motivation to innovate and to push forward, and this is what we're doing in Schaffhausen every day.
Yes, I certainly agree, and also, how you said, you have to keep innovating, especially with the new generation of collectors as well. Now, I'd like to refer to our collector here on stage with us, Kun Pirapon. What aspects of the design of IWC is in particularly the parts that you like?
From the historical of IWC is the collector always see the engineering performance and the functionality in the DNA. So everything we saw on the watch is it has a clarity of the overall design of the dial, the balancing in the dial. The case also always is on the brushing. Even the steel or gold case, it made it feel in everyday watch. We have scratch, but it's hard to see. The strap and the bracelet is, I think, is the best for me, because when you have a good design watch, the great brand, but the bracelet is God, because not only the wearing comfort, but I talked to Knoop. The IWC do the perlage on the clasps at the back side. Only the owners know, because this is the DNA of the brand that make everything perfect. I think it hit to the heart of the collectors. That is the IWC DNA.
That's really nice. I tend to agree that there's a real meaning behind every detail of an IWC watch. But I think what Christian says is really important also about not necessarily just repeating the past, but bringing something that's a contemporary relevance and an evolution to design. And I feel that the timepiece behind us is the perfect example of that. So what is that? That is Christian's or IWC's new version of their engineer, right? And I actually would say this is probably the best version that has ever existed. Actually, better than the version that was created in 1976 by Gerald Genta. I know there's people here that might get a little bit upset by that.
Be careful with what you say.
Wait, let me explain to you why. And please tell me, I know the gentleman here is the head of the Thailand's watch collecting community, WCC, right?
Right.
Which has 1,400 serious members and 10,000 non-serious members. Right? I'm one of the non-serious ones. Okay.
Are you sure you're one of the non-serious ones, Wei?
So if we look in the context of the 1970s, this is the birth of this type of watch, the integrated bracelet sport chic watch. The first two examples, if we can say, the Royal Oak and the Nautilus, are very muscular on one side, but very elegant and slim on the other side as well, right? Very thin because they're both using the same movement, which is the Jaeger 920. It's a Jaeger Liquid 920, which is it was at the time the world's thinnest automatic movement with a full rotor. The IWC is completely different. When the watch emerges, it is a beast, right? Why is it a beast? Because IWC has to do everything with meaning. So first thing is it's called an engineer, so it has to have a soft iron Faraday cage, so it's amagnetic. Then of course, they're going to put the most efficient winding movement in the world, which is a peloton winding, bidirectional winding movement. But the result is the watch is super thick. And on your wrist, it's almost ungainly because it's like you have a brick tied to your wrist, with a very nice bracelet with perlage on the inside,
Or the satin brush.
But yes, exactly. So that watch, which the Germans used to call the strong box, right? Yeah, I believe it was the nickname for it, was very hard to wear. Now, what I like about that is this timepiece, which Christian he's taken the spirit of that original, but he's made it, from my perspective, far more wearable, much more elegant, and much more, adaptable to contemporary life.
Tougher.
Comfortable, right? Yeah. Christian, talk to us about the evolution of the engineer.
Yeah, I mean, what Gerald Genta really did is that he gave a character and a signature to this piece. And as you rightly said, the Ingenieur meant a lot to IWC. Initially started in 1955 with two important technical innovations, the first automatic watch from IWC and the first civilian application of our know-how we gained in military watches with soft iron inner cases. And so the technical assets were super strong, but the initial design was not recognizable, not powerful enough. And what, thanks to Gerald Genta, this line got in 1976 is really a strong character. And this is something that was so powerful that actually his design cues, his design signature with the case shape, with the bezel, with the special texture on the dial, with a very characteristic dial design, strap design, really survived all the decades with my predecessors messing with this design and trying iterations on this, which were partly also very, very nice. But we wanted to really remind of his original signature and create an automatic watch which is true to his dimension and to his basic idea and signature elements. And for me, when we launched it in 2023, the most exciting moment was when I presented the prototype to Gerald's widow, Evelyn Genta. And so we had the prototype ready prior to the fair, and for me it was a bit of a nervous, intense moment to see her because she's a strong and very outspoken lady. For those who have met her before, absolutely charming, but she knows what she wants. And so I was a bit nervous prior to this meeting, and so for me it was very, very good to receive her blessing on the new design. And even stronger, she said her husband would have liked the idea that we keep improving on his design from the past, and he would never have liked to just redo something that was already done 40 or 50 years before. And this I found very, very encouraging, and this also became another element also in my daily work, is to be brave and to also keep pushing the boundaries and not to stand still and to repeat what has been done in the past. And I think with this said and her compliment, we created a very strong foundation, and we hopefully can build on in the coming years.
Yeah, and talking back to what you mentioned early on in this conversation, you were saying that these watches were actually designed for pilots. They had like a function and a meaning behind every design. So how did this kind of like lead to the future where it is now like favorites amongst like watch lovers from all around the world?
Yeah, I mean, it's interesting to know that when we talk about professional watches and professional watches history, everyone is talking about the pilot's watches, probably the best known and the most remarkable pieces. But it's important to mention that IWC's history in military and professional watches started much earlier. So we started in 1915, roundabout, when we did the first deck watches for the Royal Navy. We did watches for the Royal Army. We did later in the 80s, also the famous Bund watches, which was Ocean 2000 for
those are cool.
special forces, cool. Divers in Germany and so on. So, I mean, IWC in particular in the 20th century has a lot of instrument watches that covers actually a much broader aspect of our watch heritage than just the pilot's watches. We have these pilot's watches, we have a very strong design DNA there, but I think the general idea of us as a brand of very precise instrument watches covering different territories and different eras is for us a leading aspect that even goes into the development of an ingénieur, which never had a professional application, but it still has this character like we would do and design a professional watch.
Yeah, and obviously, like, talking about all the designs and different eras of IWC, someone who obviously has gone through all the designs and probably collects a few as well, Kun Pirapon, could you reflect on some of the watches from IWC that you're actually owning or you've collected so far?
Okay, let me, because of the picture is very clear. You see that the right one is the reference 431. This is in the past we call B-Uhr. Actually it means the big pilot. So when you saw it has a DNA, the full of the IWC DNA inside, the dial of type 1, the hand, alpha hand, and the size of the case, and also the oversized crown. And look the same. When the DNA is working, it's like a bridge between the O1, the legendary O1 to the new one. Very clear. This is currently big pilot today. So the bridge is very important because you pass the DNA to the new watch today.
I love that actually because it's not just design for design's sake. everything has meaning. So if you look at the crown on the left-hand side, why was it so oversized? It was so that pilots could manipulate it with their gloves on, right? If you look at the case itself, it's a matte finish case because you don't want reflection in the cockpit. Same rationale for the dial, which is matte black. Same rationale for the sword hands and the luminous indexes. And where is the focus on this watch? The focus is on the seconds, right? Super important. You know, and also look at how precisely you can read things. It's always, not to make fun of anyone, but it's always been kind of funny to me that Panerai is, which I love, is like the military watch of the Italian Navy, but there's only 5-minute markers. There's no 1-minute markers, which means it's like, hey, Giuseppe, we're going to start the invasion in about the 5 minutes. You know what I'm saying?
You can't count the seconds.
Correct, it talks to you about that culture, whereas here it's about precision, right? And you see that transmitted to that. But Christian, how hard is it to make that meaningful but also emotional?
Yeah, decades is very, very hard because there's lots of decades in between. But what helps us to do this is to clearly identify design codes, design signatures, which we take very serious in IWC, and we really have guidelines also for our creatives. What is the design signature of a pilot, of a Portuguese, of a Portofino, and this is really put on paper and on digital media as well. So whenever we design this, that's very present as a reference. But what's even stronger is that even as the use case is not there anymore, there's still the dream. There's still this emotional power of aviation, of flying, of planes that still captures people, and this also is still alive and very, very powerful nowadays. I mean, being a pilot, obviously in Second World War was not fun, but the world of aviation is still powerful and very much charged with emotions, and this still remains also in our days where we've broadened the portfolio to many different directions, going from a very romantic part with the Saint-Exupéry and the Petit Prince to a more technical part, working with the US Navy and various Navy squadrons in the world of professional pilots' watches. So this whole world of aviation has so many facets, and we all cover this with our pilots' collection with different aesthetic expressions, but they are all united by one design DNA.
Yeah, I would love to compare upon this question as well. What I love about IWC's pilot watches today is it can be the home to many different types of watches. You can have split-second chronograph. You can have perpetual calendar in a pilot's watch as well. How do you feel about this technical evolution of the pilot's watch? Because a real pilot doesn't need a perpetual calendar, you know?
I think it's good because of the brand can put all application on the watch side in the one collection. I think it's a chance for the collectors who love the function, right? I think it's a good chance.
Yeah, I love them too. I have to say the Big Pilot Perpetual Calendar with the double hemisphere moon face is also a spectacular timepiece.
Expand the expectation of the product.
Absolutely.
Right.
It's also part of our work as creatives, because all the historic watch collections as IWC initially started as 2 or 3 hand watches, and then over time we have added more function, more aesthetics, and more materials to that. But this core idea of a simple 3-hand watch and transporting the design DNA, be it a Portuguese, be it a pilot, be it an ingénieur, these were all 3-hand watches in the very beginning, and now over time we have added these additional functions, predominantly in the typical IWC innovation territory, like calendar functions, like chronograph functions, which we really focus on in IWC movement innovation.
And even an incredible tourbillon with remontoir d'égalité as well. Constant force tourbillon, that thing is badass. Yes.
Yeah. So we were just talking about, aviation and how that kind of is channeled through the pilot. But then moving across the pond, you then shifted towards motorsport as well. So we kind of wanted to find out, how does IWC channel this motorsport ethos into the design?
Now I think when we are talking about pilots' watches and U.S. Navy and divers, this active component in the professional leisure context was AMG out of our brand DNA. And we started a partnership with Mercedes-AMG in the year 2003, which is now basically the oldest partnership between a watch brand and a car or motorsports brand. And this led to various watches and editions and innovations. So this was always more than just a marketing partnership putting two logos next to each other. There was even a car, a CLS edition, IWC. We had used suppliers and materials also from the car industry also for our watches. So it was a very lively exchange on both sides. And this took us into the world of Formula One in 2013. Mercedes had just rejoined the world of Formula One again, and we became, next to our partnership with Mercedes-AMG, also a partner of Mercedes-AMG Petronas, the Formula One team. So, which is also now more than 10 years. We have been working together on various editions, on various driver editions with Nico Rosberg, with Lewis Hamilton, recently also with George Russell and Kimi and so on. So that's this. We really became one family in working together here. There was a Toto Wolff edition on the shock absorber. So the world of motorsports was a great fit with IWC, with our values, with our technologies, technical materials we brought into the watches, and this, in a natural way, also led into the world of film. We've been always featured also in Hollywood films. There was a good connection also with Jerry Bruckheimer. And then when the idea came up to do this, the Formula One, the movie, this was a perfect fit with IWC. And we were very proud to be partner of the film, to be actually the official sponsor of this fictional team, Apex GP. That was featured in the movie, and we had the chance really to create like a full capsule collection on our pilots' watches, but also to supply this entire team and created with watches, with different pilots' watches, with different pieces, and created a kind of full environment people could really immerse into.
I want to just chime in here. I don't know if have you guys seen this movie? Has everyone seen F1? So my wife has made me watch this movie 3 times. That's how crazy she is about it, right? It is probably the greatest act of like sports marketing for a watch brand that I've ever seen, because it's perfect. And Sonny Hayes' character is incredible. There's only 2 moments in cinema where I'm like, dude, I have to take my hat off. The first one was in Casino Royale, where she's like, is that a Rolex? And then Daniel Craig is like, no, it's an Omega, right? And then the second one was when Sonny Hayes is wearing his Ingenieur. And then when you win the 24 hours of Le Mans, traditionally you're given a Daytona. And he's like, they're like, hey, do you want your watch? He's like, no, I'm good. I have a watch already. Christian is laughing. It was good. But the IWC is so perfect for this as well. I want to go back to Chris Granger's predecessor, George Kern, because I remember once I asked him, why is it important to put your watches into film? And the movie I just watched was The Bourne Legacy with Jeremy Renner. And in that movie, they're using the IWC Top Gun split-second chronograph. So it's a ceramic watch, which incidentally, IWC was the pioneer in using ceramic in a luxury watch. And it's a split-second chronograph, which means it's capable of recording a lap time. IWC is also the pioneer in making the first accessible and basically idiot-proof split-second chronograph back in 1992. And he said, there are going to be so many people that I can't reach through traditional means, right? But those guys, maybe he's a hardworking guy in America. He's got a pickup truck. He goes on the weekend to the movie. He's not going to go on check out like a watch blog or a watch forum or unfortunately Revolution. He's just going to want to like go and hang out and watch Jason Bourne kick ass, right? But when he's watching that, he's going to be like, whoa, this guy's wearing a watch. This watch is cool, right? Hey, wait a second, maybe I should know a bit more about IWC because this brand is super interesting to me. But it wouldn't have worked if the watch itself didn't have meaning from a material innovation perspective, from a complication perspective, and even just as a brand, a precision perspective as well. So it works here because IWC has it in its roots to be this ultimate precision watch.
Yeah, and like just talking about like the design, I gotta say it first, it's a beautiful, beautiful watch, by the way. And you know, the design, like, you know, when you're linking it to motorsport, what design elements makes a watch look fast? Because obviously, like connecting it to F1, it's gotta look quick. You can't make a watch look slow.
No, there's actually a couple of things. I mean, when we look back into our history also with Mercedes AMG, I mean, there were specific materials. We had titanium, we had carbon cases, carbon dials. We had this AMG One watch, which was really their hypercar from AMG that was made from titanium aluminide, which is a high-performance titanium alloy, which is used for turbochargers in motorsports and so on. So there's a direct connection on the material base, but the number one feature is the tachymeter bezel, which really distinguishes a chronograph designed for motorsports from chronographs for other purposes, and we were missing this element. And with adding actually the performance chronographs to the pilot's range, we brought in this tachymeter feature, which we see here, which is together with the quarter-second scale, is actually the two features that were lacking in the pilot's range to make a perfect functional connection with the world of motorsports. So we're very proud to highlight this and to give this such a beautiful stage also in the movie and the dedicated pieces we have in the collection there.
Absolutely amazing. And, you know, seeing IWC kind of like develop across all these generations from your aviation watches to now motorsport, like, you know, through all the innovation, how do you ensure that IWC does not lose its essential soul?
I think in the end, it's about the people, and I was really very pleased to watch your previous sessions also with the dear colleagues from Beauvais and Chapek and so on, and it was really touched with a personal passion and energy of these two colleagues, and I think it's really what connects this entire industry and what's also preserving actually the DNA of who we are in Schaffhausen is the passion of the people. We are lucky to be around for more than 150 years. We have in Schaffhausen, we have lots of colleagues working for us in second and third generation. And what is really amazing and unique is actually the way actually the spirit is passed on to the next generation. I have a team where I have young interns, but I have also designers that are with us for 20 years, and it's at IWC really amazing to see how people soak up that spirit, that IWC DNA in all departments, not only in design, also watchmaking, engineering, marketing, and really help to shape this brand and to push this brand to the future.
Christian, tell us about Kurt Klaus, because he is, to me, the living repository of IWC's soul.
Yeah, talking about generations, you are absolutely right. I had lunch with a collector and with Kurt on Monday, and he is absolutely the living example for that passion and this dedication. I mean, he is over 90 and is still has a very sharp mind and has still a great passion for the brand. Has such an amazing fan community also worldwide. So people are really honored to meet him. And when I was sitting there over lunch with him, I was recalling the time when I joined IWC. This was 17 years ago. He was already retired, but was almost on the work floor in the engineering department every day. So despite the fact that he was retired, and this shows actually the work ethos, and this shows the connection with the brand, and this shows also the people who are so much passionate about what they do for the brand that they even come up back in the company even after they are retired. I mean, they're unstoppable basically, and Kurt definitely is.
I love that. You know, in the last session we had Ongban, who is the CEO of Sincere, and he said, even if you weren't paying me, I'd still do this job. And that's what I love about the watch industry. Compare up when, maybe we can ask you, you know, you collect IWCs over different generations. For you, how do you feel the contemporary watches resonate with the same soul?
For IWC, I think it's I come back to the basic is a DNA of the brand because when you saw even the pilot watch every time I saw the pilot watch IWC we have the triangle there and it has a meaning in not decorate things because maybe I can ask the question to the
Yes, please.
to the audience
Please do. ครับ
this triangle means something yeah it's used for the pilot who knows the question the answer
Anybody know the answer?
yeah anybody else
Anybody?
it's when we saw every pilot watch of IWC we saw this triangle that means more than a soul of the watch the style of the watch you know the answer who know
Anyone?
anyone
Maybe they're just shy.
yeah when it in the situation of the low light the pilot need to know the direction of the 12 that is the why we have this triangle yeah this is I think it's the design that timeless yeah
And on that note, talking about timeless design, I would like to ask all of you here one last final question. Maybe start with Kun Pirapon. You mentioned the triangle already, but if you had to choose one design element that makes a timepiece elegant, which design element would it be?
The first in my mind is the logo because I always love the handwriting logo of IWC, the International Watch Company. That is make it always recall me this brand. And the timeless design, if have one design, should be the simple, strong, clarity, and show the brand DNA again. Show the clearly brand DNA. I think that is.
So it's the logo of the brand showing
minimalist.
Yeah, very minimal and shows the true DNA of the brand. And now Christian, onto that same question. One design element only. It's a very tough question, by the way.
I mean, it is not only a tough question; it's a tough task. I mean, we as designer get up every morning, show up in the office, and get the briefing, design an icon, and design something timeless.
That's a very big question.
So and it's the number one mantra every morning, and it's at the same time possible and impossible, but it's not for us to judge.
Okay. And now, lastly, Wei?
Yeah, I would say the most important element is truthfulness, right? So be true to who you are. If you looked at the session we did yesterday with Panerai, the fact that they've remade the 5218 is incredible. It's exactly the type of watch that Panerai should be making. And Panerai has had some ups and downs over the last couple of years. The challenges has been, as it's tried to evolve, it's moved away from its core identity. And when you do that, you somehow lose yourself a little bit, I remember once I asked Ralph Lauren in the 1990s, all the rappers started wearing like Ralph Lauren, wearing polo. And I asked him, did you start making clothes more with that in mind? He said, no, because the whole reason they started buying my clothes is they wanted something that they didn't have. They wanted what I had. And the moment you start pandering to people, it's the moment you start losing who you are. One of the watches that Christian has designed, which is one of my favorite IWCs at the moment, is the Pilot's 41 Lake Tahoe. It's all white ceramic, but it still has the soul, the purity. IWC works today. Triangle, the precision, and I think that's why IWC works today. Is it's never forgotten who it is.
All right, ladies and gentlemen, so let's give a big round of applause to our panelists and our moderator here today. That concludes our symposium for today, and I gotta say, it's very insightful, and I'm sure this will spark lots of conversations afterwards. And obviously, Christian and our collector, and obviously Wei will be inside this hall after the event. So if you have any questions, please feel free to approach them. So
Good job, Kim. Good job.
Thank you very much, Wei. We're at the end now. Gen Z power.
Gen Z.
All right, now I would like to invite all of you to take a photo up on stage. All right, ladies and gentlemen. So before closing today's symposiums, on behalf of Revolution Thailand and Siam Piwat, I'd like to thank our key partners who have made this momentous occasion possible. So that goes to Piaget, Panerai, Frank Mueller, SHH, Bove, Chapik, and C, and of course IWC Schaffhausen. And thank you everyone from the bottom of my heart for joining us here today at the Symposiums by Revolution Thailand in collaboration with Siam Paragon Bangkok Watch Week 2025. So have a wonderful evening, and for those of you who have not checked out our exhibition areas outside, please make sure you check them out. But for today, I'm Kim Goodburn. Thank you for being here and see you next time. ขอบคุณครับ